History Makers. History Makers.
Okay, we're here at Easterfest 2011. We've just had a chat to Rapture Ruckus, and he's a great Kiwi guy. Even let me rap with him on stage. I'm just
Beach Daz, bro. Beach Daz, sweet.
He's a good Kiwi brother. We're talking to Phil Smith here, who is the media chaplain, which means guys like me who are doing media stuff, he's chaplaining me this weekend. Tell us, what does a chaplain do at Easterfest?
This is your chaplain speaking. Well, basically cruising around. It's that element of ministry that I think probably suits this environment really well. You just need to be a presence, to be around. The Spirit of God is doing all kinds of things in this place, and just to be here and be a part of that and tap into whatever the needs of people might be, whether that's the worship services or just getting around here with people who find that, you know, their broadcasting isn't happening because they can't get the line out and that kind of stuff, and just help them stay calm and deal with the frustrations.
Now, you've been a veteran at Easterfest. We've bumped into each other many a year out at Toowoomba. Tell us, who are the favourite artists you're looking forward to this year?
Well, that's a strange thing. I'm actually looking for some new experiences. There's nobody here other than Petra who would be sort of on my must-see tick list. And maybe that's an indication of the way I've aged and the way Christian music has changed. You know, I came to faith through some of the music of guys like Bob Dylan, Larry Norman, Barry Maguire. You know, we're going back a long time. Randy Stonehill, Chuck Girard have both been here in years past. Petra was around about then. They hold a heritage for me that I'm not sure a lot of these young people really appreciate. So for me, I'm going to be exploring Rapture Ruckus and some of those kind of guys.
Now, the other thing, Phil, that I wanted to ask you about, you're very passionate about using media to share the good news. There's an opportunity now to preach the gospel to all nations through radio and through TV and programs like this. Tell me, what do you think the future is of Christian media? How can we utilise the media to preach the gospel on the internet as well?
I guess one of my struggles is that I'm not real big on the idea of Christian media. I'm big on the idea of Christians using a medium to tell their story, and however that might be, whatever shape that is. And one of the challenges for us, particularly those who are media professionals, whose calling in life is to use media to tell the story, and this is the greatest story of the lot, is how do we then engage beyond the traditional aspects of film, television, radio, print, and start working in the world of 140 characters on Twitter? How do we create community in Facebook? How do we deal with the sort of things that are changing and reshaping the world? If you can run a revolution in the Middle East on Twitter and Facebook and other social networking sites, what about this revolution? What about the Jesus revolution? How do we work in that sphere?
Now, the other thing I remember you were involved with in previous years is the men's shed. Now, Watto, Ian Watson, a good mutual friend of ours, he's a truck driver, owns a truck driving business, training people to drive trucks. He's set up this men's shed, and they've had blokes in there talking about depression, about lust, about addictions, about, you know, marriage, about struggles you might have being a father, you know, or a husband. It's so good to have open dialogue with other blokes about what it's like trying to be a Christian bloke in 2011. You've been involved in that men's shed ministry. Tell us, how important do you think that kind of ministry is in the modern church?
I think in our modern society, to me, beyond the church into the kingdom of God and the world, the shed movement for men is one of the best examples you'll find of how revolutionary the Christian way is. Because this is a thing that says, it is okay for me to be honest with you, for me to tell you that I have struggles with my marriage or with whatever else, and not to be the big buffy Australian bloke who everything's okay. When people say, how you doing? And I say, fine. Well, often when we say fine, it means we're fouled up, insecure, neurotic and exhausted. And to say that it's okay as a bloke to share the joys and the sorrows, to drop the baggage and be with other blokes, That's good for us. It's healthy for us. And I think our society has lost so much of that. I need to be independent. I need to be wealthy. I need to make my point. I need to make my way. And for me to win, other people have to lose. That idea of manhood is just a waste of our time, and it's killing us. And we don't need it anymore. Put it down and take on this revolutionary, radical thing that Jesus says, I think you're worthwhile. Let me sit down and have a yarn to you. Let me hear your story.
Now, mate, just to wrap it up, we're here for Easter, Good Friday, Resurrection Sunday. We're here to celebrate the gospel of Jesus Christ. Would you tell our viewers, our listeners, what is the gospel to you?
The gospel is the good news. And the good news is that there is a God who is deeply involved with you and cares for you. Now, it goes well beyond all the trite little cliches we trot out about everything will be okay if you know Jesus. Everything isn't necessarily okay. In our country, we have been through floods, and we've been through earthquakes in New Zealand and some really tough stuff. And I think the Easter experience is for us to say, this is a God who knows what suffering is. This is God crucified. This is Jesus who'll go all the way to death on our behalf and even with us. And yes, there is resurrection, there is transformation. But even in the times of your life when it doesn't make sense, when it's Saturday, not Sunday, when it's Good Friday, not the resurrection day, hang in there. There is a God who loves you, and he knows, really knows what you're going through. That's good news to me, and that encourages me no end. Yeah.
Well, Phil Smith, thank you so much for joining us, mate. I reckon you're a history maker.
Good on you, Matt. Thanks.
History Makers. History